I chose her best friend's father. That night, just past midnight, I heard his knock on the small guest house door, and my breath stopped. The sound cut through the steady hum of the refrigerator and the silence that had lived in my bedroom since the divorce papers arrived. I could feel the cold of the tile under my feet, taste the faint copper of tears at the back of my tongue, and smell the heavy jasmine that drifted in from the garden. I had always believed love would be loud, clear, and honest, but that night it was a soft knock that made my world tilt. I'm 33. For years I built a life I thought was steady. I worked in a small art studio where light pulled on canvases. I paid bills on time. I kept the plants alive on the balcony, and I kept the quiet promise to myself that stability was better than chaos. I married young because his hands were worn and his voice steady. We made a home that looked good from the street and held too many silences inside. My best friend Lara had been the map to my true self since college. She was fearless, loud, and quick with soup when I needed it. Her father, Mr. Graham, was a man who wore kindness like an old coat. He was cool, successful, and always respectful in his way. He had welcomed me into their family like a long-lost daughter, and when my world fell apart after my husband's sudden confession of wanting something he could not name, it was Mr. Graham who offered the guest house behind their property so I would not be alone. He said, "You can rest there until you know what you need." I accepted the shelter as an act of neighborly care, not thinking how close rescue could become danger. The betrayal came like a winter storm. I came home from work to find the bedroom quieter than usual, and the light from the hallway painting a pale stripe across the floor. There was an open email on my laptop that spilled out the final proof. His messages to someone else, the hotel receipt, the small calculations of a life he no longer wanted to share. I remember the metallic taste of shame and the hollow echo of my footsteps through a house that felt suddenly like a stranger. I pressed my forehead to the cool window and let my tears fall until they tasted like ink. I told Lara at breakfast because there is no other place to put truth but a friend who will hold it. She slid across the table, reached out and took my hand, and for the first time in a long time, I felt grateful for the ordinary weight of another person. That afternoon, when her father offered his guest house, I thought I would sleep there for a week and gather my scattered pieces. What I did not plan for was the slow way he became a steady sound in my days. He would bring over soup on rainy nights, his fingers smelling faintly of lemon and spice. He would sit on the porch while I painted, and the way his beard shadowed his laugh lines made something ache in me that I could not name. My life was a series of small sensory anchors. The soft paper of my sketchbook, the warm clay of coffee, the way late sunlight made dust look like gold. And in those small moments I began to notice him, the way his voice softened when he read the newspaper, the careful way he wrapped my hands with a warm towel after I cut myself making dinner. He was twice my age, and I'd always seen him as a father figure in Lara's orbit. To feel the tender pull toward him felt wrong and delicious in ways I could not admit out loud. My heart kept a steady thrum when he was near, like a drum slowly learning a new rhythm. The first time our fingers brushed was an accident while we both reached for the same blue mug. I felt the electric press of skin against skin, and a heat rose from my sternum to my throat. I pulled back, embarrassed. He looked at me with a softness that made my breath hitch and said, "Forgive me." His apology was a salve, and yet the air between us had changed. Nights grew longer. I would lie awake in the guest house and listen for the distant sounds from the main house, the clink of dishes, a late laugh, and feel my pulse quicken at the thought of his footsteps coming down the porch. I hated how much I watched him in plain daylight, how my eyes traced the lines around his mouth, the gray that kissed his temples. I began to paint him in quick sketches, capturing the way his shoulders sloped, the honest set of his hands. Those sketches were a private language I kept locked away. My mornings smelled like coffee and old paper. My afternoons tasted like charcoal and rain. The guilt arrived with the sunrise and stayed like a second skin. I thought often of Lara and the betrayal that could break her if she knew. I told myself I would walk away, that I would not answer when he left a note sitting atop my canvas. Just a little paper folded, a coffee ring at the edge, a sentence that read, "You deserve to feel seen." The words burned and soothed at once. The conflict grew into a steady ache that made me dizzy. I walked the garden path at dusk, fingers trailing the hedges, trying to scrub myself clean of the longing that had no claim. He had his own losses, years of devotion to a late wife, an emptiness that echoed in the old photographs that lined his living room. That sorrow drew me in, until it felt like I was trying to mend two broken things with the same fragile thread. I told myself this was not love at first. It was a slow burn, a secret that layered itself in my bones. One evening, the rain came hard. He knocked on my guest house door, soaked to the shoulders. Carrying an umbrella and the faint smell of wet wood, he asked if he could come in. We sat with our hands wrapped around mugs that steamed and smelled like toasted grain. There was thunder in the distance, and my heart was loud in my chest. Our conversation was small at first, about the weather, about the slow growth of my succulents. Then his voice changed. He told me, without press or show, about the loneliness that followed him like a shadow. I listened, and somewhere between the rain and his quiet, the line we both agreed to keep began to blur. I felt his hand find mine across the little kitchen table. It was consent, tender and mutual. I did not taste anything sharp or forbidden. Instead, I felt a deep, cleansing warmth that spread through me and warmed the hollow places. If this confession has you holding your breath, if this secret has your heart racing like mine used to, hit like and share, because you will not believe what happens next. The days that followed were a canvas of small rebellions. We walked together where Lara might see us from a distance but not know. We shared silent breakfasts and long phone calls that ended when one of us could not say more. There were moments when guilt crashed over me like cold water, walking into Lara's kitchen and seeing the lines on her father's face in a family picture, pretending not to notice. There were nights of tenderness that felt like prayer. He never pushed me into spectacle. He never demanded I leave what I had left behind. He offered me presence. I learned to breathe again in measured counts. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, release for 4. That rhythm steadied me. We spoke about futures in small, careful ways. About whether we could survive the honesty that would hurt Lara. About whether we could be brave enough to face the consequences. In those talks, I found a second chance at love that was unexpected, older, and wiser than the one I had lost. He taught me to see that desire and care could coexist without destroying the people we loved, if handled with courage and truth. Now, sitting on the porch as the sun sets and the jasmine breathes its sweet scent into the evening, I know a choice must come. I am not the same frightened woman who took the guest house keys and ran from a closed door. I am a woman who has loved, lost, and allowed herself to be seen again. The future is not certain. There will be hard words and possibly broken trust. Yet there is also the pulsing possibility of healing through love. If you crave more raw, emotional confessions, please like, share, and subscribe. Your next chapter awaits. Emotional storytelling, forbidden love, second chances, mature romance, infidelity in marriage, love after loss, grief and healing, tenant love story, romantic narration, YouTube romance, healing through love, slow burn romance, older woman, younger man, heartfelt story, true feelings, emotional connection, faceless love, Olivia and Marcus, narrative romance, love found me.